Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Haqiqat Show, where we discuss religion and politics, the two least controversial subjects. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Haqiqatjou. First and foremost, I want to wish everyone an Eid Mubarak. I hope you had an excellent Eid. And I had a great Eid, alhamdulillah. It was very nice seeing my kids especially being very happy and joyous for Eid, and we gave them a lot of gifts, alhamdulillah. For the most part, it was smooth. Every Eid there can be complications, coordinating different things, but alhamdulillah, it went smooth for the most part. I did get sick for some reason. We've been, as a family, that's the thing when you have kids. If the kids get sick, then eventually, as a parent, you're going to get sick because you're just constantly, kids are not the most hygienic, especially if you have a toddler. They're crawling around, they're touching everything, and they get sick. So if you're a parent, you're, hugging, kissing your children, you're feeding them. It's just very easy to get sick as well. So with me, alhamdulillah, with my kids, they've kept me sick with these kinds of cold, fever, these kinds of, alhamdulillah, nothing too serious. But that's a little bit of what I was dealing with on Eid. But I hope everyone had an excellent Eid and you enjoyed a lot of beef. You enjoyed a lot of maybe goat or lamb, sheep. So I hope it was very tasty. May Allah accept your sacrifices. May Allah accept your worship. And this is just a joyous time of the year. So I'm very happy that I'll get to share, part of this Eid with you for the show. And we have a great show for you today. Alhamdulillah, prepared for it, been preparing for it for a long time, actually. And we are going to talk about Hinduism, and it's related to Eid. Why? Because you have all these Hindu extremists online who are attacking Islam, specifically on Eid al-Adha. They're attacking Islam and they're saying that Islam is about slaughtering animals and killing innocent cows and innocent sheep and goats, and this is barbaric. You have Buddhist extremists as well who are attacking Muslims for this same kind of explanation. So we want to respond to the Hindu extremists, and we want to get into the hypocrisy, the Hindu hypocrisy, that they are criticizing Muslims for our celebration and our ritual sacrifice, and yet look at what they're doing. Look at what kinds of animal cruelty they're engaged in. Look at the bizarre ideas that their religions call them to. We want to look at that specifically with Hinduism. And then we want to react. So you might have seen the title of this show, Come Stare at My Wife. Some people like that title, alhamdulillah. But there's, this is the reason for the title. We're going to react to these Muslim influencers named Jasmine or Yasmin and Dawoud. Two Muslim influencers who have a channel, a very successful channel, almost 1 million subscribers, and their videos get hundreds of millions of views. It's quite shocking, actually, how popular this stuff is. And there's this genre of Muslim couple influencers, and they're pushing a lot of stuff onto the Muslim community, and some of it is not so good. Some of it's not so good. So we want to react. I'm going to play some of their shorts. We're going to look at it. We're going to share some ayat of the Quran, some hadith, and we're going to basically be the haram police. That's the thing about me, MuslimSkeptic, Haqiqat Show, the episodes that you've seen so far. We embrace the title haram police. Okay, there's nothing wrong with being the haram police as long as you do it in the right way and you do it with knowledge and you do it with the correct approach. So we're gonna play haram police. As usual, I'm going to be looking at your comments. If you have any super chats, that will prioritize your comment. We'll pause periodically throughout the show in order to read those super chats. So just because you put a super chat and I don't get to it in 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes, don't worry. As long as it's appropriate, I will, inshallah, read that. Read your super chat and answer your questions. So, yeah, let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Very important. Subscribe to our newsletter. Where is the newsletter? How can you subscribe to it? Go to the description of the video. It's posted. The link is posted. You can put in your email address. And this is very important because if for any reason the channel gets banned, and we're off of social media, the primary way that you can stay in touch with us is through email, because we will send emails informing you of content that we have. The website, of course, is MuslimSkeptic.com. So make sure you subscribe to the newsletter, and we're going to reward you for subscribing to the newsletter because we have exclusive updates that we post only to people who are subscribed to the newsletter. I don't post on any other social media platform. I only post on the newsletter. And eventually we're going to even have other offers like sharing books, ebooks on that email list. So subscribe and stay subscribed to that email, and we won't spam it. Expect maybe one email every 2 weeks, maximum an email a week. So just go and subscribe. Okay, so let's get started on Hindu hypocrisy, and then we'll get to come stare at my wife, which will be entertaining, I'm sure. So let's see. Let me share my screen here so you can see what I'm looking at. So you see these Hindu extremists who immediately around Eid time, Eid al-Adha, they start agitating against the Muslim community. And they say things like, go vegan this Eid. Go vegan, have a bloodless celebration. Bakri lives matter. So this is the kind of propaganda that they're putting out against Muslims. Now, this kind of propaganda, if you're in the West or you're in a country that's not being controlled by Hindu nationalists, these Hindu extremists, it's, you just roll your eyes. Like, why would I go vegan when there's this delicious beef, this delicious meat that we get to eat for Eid? But if you're living in India or you're living in a country that has many Hindus, like in Sri Lanka or elsewhere, then this becomes a problem because this is a way to target the Muslim minority, and sometimes this will even bleed into violence. And so this is something that has become increasingly a concern, and we have to speak out. We have to call out this kind of terrorism against Muslims. So if you look, even mainstream media has been reporting about the violent rise of India's cow vigilantes. Cow vigilantes. So as our brother Muhammad Hijab put it, these are violent vegetarians. Vicious vegetarians, and they're attacking Muslims. And it's not something to laugh about because it's leading to a lot of death. This article is saying that cow vigilantes started patrolling neighborhoods looking to physically punish those who were allegedly harboring, consuming, or even transporting cows. In most cases, the victims of these mob beatings were Muslim. So this is very serious. Our Muslim brothers and sisters are being lynched in India, for example, because of this kind of extremism that we see. But this is hypocrisy, as I'll share. This is a kind of hypocrisy from Hinduism, and I'll explain exactly why. So here's another article. Cow vigilante charged with double murder in India after Muslim men's bodies found in burnt out cars. So this is shocking. Like, you are killing other human beings for the sake of a cow. And it's not like the Muslims are abusing cows. They're just eating cows, just like the rest of the world's population. And this is something that is hard to understand. Like, why? Why are you going to attack and kill another human being and do essentially terrorism for the sake of a cow? Here's another report from Human Rights Watch. India, vigilante cow protection groups attack minorities. And then Human Rights Watch says authorities should end communal rhetoric and prosecute assailants. So the problem is that you have BJP, which is the ruling Hindu party in India, and they're full of these extremists and terrorists. and they're led by the biggest terrorist, Narendra Modi, and they will spew this kind of violent rhetoric against Muslims, and they will lionize and agitate the Hindu masses to attack Muslims. And that's when violence breaks out against the Muslim minority. And so you have an entire report that was published. And in this report, the name of the report is, it's a 104-page report actually. Violent Cow Protection in India, Vigilante Groups Attack Minorities. So this was a professional report that was published, and it says that between May 2015 and December 2018, at least 44 people, including 36 Muslims, were killed in such attacks. Police often stalled prosecutions of the attackers, while several BJP politicians publicly justified the attacks. So this is a systematic, you've heard of structural racism. This is like structural vegetarianism. This is a structural problem within India, and they are terrorizing the Muslim minority community. Why? Just because not thinking that cows are sacred, not thinking that cows are sacred, divine, and should be worshipped. This is why they're being lynched. So 36 Muslims, 44 in total. So some of those might have been Christians, because Christians in India are also being attacked and are being lynched by the Hindu extremists over there. So let's look a little bit more closely at this cow worship. So Go Puja is the name or is the term for cow worship. And so Hindus believe that cows have this kind of human soul, and they are sacred, they are divine. They believe in general that animals can have human souls because of reincarnation. So this is why they prescribe vegetarianism. If you're eating an animal, like a chicken even, you could potentially be eating a human soul, human person. So this is why vegetarianism is prescribed by modern day Hinduism. And obviously there's some difference of opinion, but when it comes to cows specifically, there's a certain sacredness that cannot be violated. And you can see here these Hindus are worshiping this little calf. They're offering it food. They're hand feeding the cow. They will also basically take care of it like a king because they're worshiping it. Now, there is interesting texts within Hinduism in the Manusmriti, for example, that animals are even compared to the Shudras. And the Shudras, we know, is the second lowest caste within Hinduism. And they're in that caste, the Shudras are tasked with being kind of manual laborers, and basically being mistreated by the upper caste, the twice-born castes like the Brahmin caste, the Kshatriya class, etc. So in the Manusmriti, it says that if you kill a cat, having killed a cat, a blue jay, a frog, a dog, an iguana, an owl, and a crow. And I don't know what ichneumon is. I should have looked that up before. Maybe someone in the chat can look it up and tell me what ichneumon means. What animal is that? He shall perform the penance of the Shudra killer. So the punishment for killing a blue jay or a frog or an iguana or a cat or a dog is the same as if you kill a Shudra, which is the second lowest class. We know the lowest class are the untouchables, the Dalits. But this is what the Manusmriti prescribes in Hinduism. So this is, for anyone who's not a Hindu, this is quite laughable that this is what your religion teaches. But you have these Hindu extremists who are taking this and actually applying it on the Muslim minority. When you look at specifically the cow, they believe that there are 5 products of the cow that have this kind of sacredness, such as milk, obviously, curd, ghee, or even the urine or the dung of cows. So you can check out, if you're interested in reading more, this paper published in the Journal of Ecology of Food and Nutrition, and they talk about the purificatory role of the 5 products of the cow in Hinduism. And these products are used to in their rituals, they're used for purification. So other religions like Islam, we use water to purify. Like you wash yourself with water, you do ablutions. Christians also have baptism, for example, with water. In Hinduism and other religions like Zoroastrianism, which has a connection to Hinduism actually, they use urine for purification. It can be the urine of a cow. It can sometimes even be the urine of a person. Can be used to purify yourself. You bathe yourself in the urine of these animals because there's a sanctity of the cow, or specifically of this urine. So this is giving you a background of like what's driving the lynching of Muslims, what's driving this hatred. When they say Bakri lives matter, when they are saying go vegan for Eid, it's not out of some kind of belief in animal welfare. It's not in some kind of message of, oh, we need to just be kind to animals. In general, they don't have kindness for human beings. You know, they don't have kindness for Muslims or Christians, and they don't even have kindness for the majority of Indians, which are the lower classes, the Shudras and the Dalits. Like traditionally, those castes were the most oppressed people on the face of the earth by the upper castes. So they don't really, it's not out of some kind of care for animals. And the thing is that there are a lot of clips that I could share with you right now about Hindu treatment of animals. And again, I don't want to label all Hindus. This is not about Hindu hatred, but their religious beliefs are quite vile. Let's just be honest. We're not trying to spread the hatred of individuals, but when you have these rituals that call for slaughtering goats, for example, and Twitter, you can find so many clips that have been posted in response to an attack on Muslims. They're attacking and criticizing Muslims for Eid al-Adha and saying Muslims are barbaric. Well, what are they actually doing to animals in India? And you have these rituals, and you have Hindu priests who are ripping the heads off of chickens, for example, and just biting on the still half-living chicken while it's trying to struggle free. You have, very gruesome. I can't show them on YouTube. They're barely allowed on Twitter. You have videos of within Hindu temples. Like these aren't just random Hindus committing acts of violence against animals. These are their priests who are like taking a butcher's knife and just one by one just slaughtering sheep, like with no care or concern for the animal's pain or suffering. They're just whacking the animal with this kind of sharp object, and they're lopping off the heads of these sheep, and you can see the animals are squirming in pain, because when you hit an animal in the back of the neck, that it hits the spine. That's the most painful thing. So they go through the most painful death when you kill from the spine, as opposed to the Islamic way, which is to cut the arteries in the neck so that it bleeds out. And when the loss of blood pressure happens, when the throat is slit, the animal loses consciousness. So it is the least painful way to actually slaughter an animal is hand slaughter by cutting the neck. This is traditionally how slaughtering is done, not only in Islam, but even in Christianity and Judaism. Modern slaughtering in commercial meat processing is also very brutal because they do things like use stun guns or electricity to immobilize the animal. So that's also quite brutal. But the most brutal that I've seen are these Hindus in India who are slaughtering goats, slaughtering chickens, and other animals. And this is quite shocking to see. And again, like we find these kinds of practices in Hinduism. They even have practices like Purusha Meda, which is human sacrifice. And every other week, you can see the Times of India reporting on another case of child sacrifice or human sacrifice. The British, when they colonized India, were shocked to see that children were being sacrificed to gods. The Hindus were even sacrificing infants to sharks in the Ganges River. This is what they saw and they documented. So this is unfortunately something that is continuing even to this day. So what else can we say about Hindu hypocrisy? So a lot of Hindus respond to the points about cow urine by saying, oh, well, in Islam, you also have this hadith about camel urine. Camel urine is supposed to be something that Muslims use, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, says that you should use camel urine. Therefore, this is the same as Hinduism. Therefore, Muslims are hypocrites for criticizing us. This is a false equivalency. And if you want to read a really good in-depth article, I recommend you go to MuslimSkeptic.com. And our brother Beria wrote an excellent article. All of his articles, mashallah, are excellent. And he wrote about camel urine in Islam. Do Hindus and Western non-Muslims have any grounds for objection? So he talks about a lot of facts and brings up a lot of texts. But he has three main points, I would say. So the first point, camel urine is not in Islam, is not analogous to cow urine in Hinduism. And this is how he puts it. The most obvious point is that the camel is not a sacred animal within Islam. The same way that the cow is a sacred animal within Hinduism. And secondly, camel urine is not used in rituals in Islam. Camel urine is medicinal. It's used as a medicine. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ prescribed, to use camel urine as a type of medicine for certain types of illnesses. This is completely disanalogous to cow urine used in Hinduism. Cow urine in Hinduism is used for purification, to wash yourself. It is seen as something to drink and to eat for blessings. So Beria says, we do not worship the camel, unlike the Hindus, or we don't kill anyone who harms a camel. So if you go and you slap a camel, Muslims are not going to come kill you. We don't think that the camel is some sacred animal in the way that Hindus believe that cows are sacred. So this is a huge disanalogy, and Beria makes this brilliant point. He also says that Western medicine, this is another one of Beria's points, he says that Western medicine has a long history of weird medical treatment. So this is Beria. He's not only defending against Islam, against the Hindus, he's also defending against these Western critics. He's saying that, okay, for the Western critics who say that, oh, Muslims have this hadith about using camel urine, look how barbaric or backwards or dirty Muslims are, or how dirty Islam is. Well, guess what? The Western history is replete with weird medical treatments that have been prescribed, including cannibalism. So this is what Beria will cite in one of these texts. Pliny the Elder from the 3rd century AD, the influential Roman encyclopedist who advised drinking human blood to fight epilepsy. So this is cannibalism, drinking human blood. And then in the modern period, we have Victorian England's ruling class enjoying eating dead body parts to keep their youth. So eating dead body parts. You also have the use of even the use of stem cells, for example, in anti-aging treatments. You have different human body parts. Placenta is used, like of a human. Placenta is used in different kinds of moisturizers or creams or medicines. They use human body parts for these kinds of treatments. That's cannibalism, and that continues to this very day. Also, more analogously, you have the use of Premarin. Premarin is a medicine, or it's a compound taken from where? A horse. It's horse urine. Specifically, a pregnant horse's urine is turned into this compound called Premarin. And between 1992 and 2001, it was the most widely prescribed drug in the United States. Premarin. So horse urine, you want to criticize Muslims for, or the Prophet ﷺ for prescribing camel urine. Your own doctors are prescribing horse urine as a medicine based on modern medical science. So how did the Prophet ﷺ know about camel urine having these kinds of positive effects? So if you go and read Beria's article, he also links a published peer-reviewed article here, From Desert to Medicine, a review of camel genomics and therapeutic products, is published in Frontiers in Genetics. It's a review article. You can see the citation there. Go check it out. Inshallah. Okay. So this is Hindu hypocrisy. Let's look at other examples. That was Beria's article. But when we look at the history of Hinduism itself, archaeologists have been able to determine that within the subcontinent, ancient Hindus, or the ancestors of the current day Hindus, were eating a lot of meat. They loved beef. They loved to eat meat. So a study titled Lipid Residues in Pottery from the Indus Civilization in Northwest India looks at the food habit of the people of that era on the basis of lipid residue analysis found in pottery from Harappan sites in Haryana. So this proves scientifically through archaeology that they were eating a lot of meat in ancient India, in the ancient subcontinent. So that's point number one, hypocrisy number one. Point number two, beef was an offering in the Vedic age. So in the time of the Vedas, allegedly the most authoritative Hindu text, the Vedas, Hindus or beef sacrifice or cow sacrifice is prescribed. And this is something that, again, is acknowledged by those who study India and the history of India and the Hindu texts. It was only later, through the influence of, for example, Buddhism, where Hinduism changed and adopted ahimsa, this kind of nonviolence. Their doctrines changed greatly over time, that cow worship and cow sacredness was adopted. But before that, in the Vedic age, there's a lot of rituals involving animal sacrifices. Another significant one is Ashvamedha, right? Ashvamedha, the dead horse sex ritual with the queen, that involves sacrificing a horse by suffocating it to death. For Muslims, whenever you see these Hindu extremists post against Eid al-Adha and say, oh, Muslims should go vegan for Eid, post about Ashvamedha. Ask them, did that horse deserve to be suffocated to death just so that your queen could have sex with it? Is that really... ask them about that. Ask them about the Skanda Purana and the Vedas and Ashvamedha. That's the whole point of these kinds of shows that we do, is so that you as a Muslim are empowered to respond and shut down these extremist critics of Muslims who are trying to make the lives of Muslims in India miserable, literally lynching the Muslim minority in India. Do you, as a Muslim, not have a sense of loyalty to your Indian brothers and sisters, Muslim brothers and sisters in Kashmir, in India, in Sri Lanka, and the whole world who are being oppressed by whether it's Hindus or Buddhists? You should have that kind of loyalty to your brothers and sisters. You should learn about Hinduism. You should learn about Buddhism and these beliefs so that you can defend our brothers and sisters. This is very critical. Beating around the beef. So BJP is likely to further hype the controversy in view of the upcoming state election. So the BJP, they want to, in the U.S., the way that they rile up the conservative base is to talk about abortion. Also, sometimes to talk about LGBT. You rile up the conservative base. Oh, they're coming after your kids. Oh, they're coming after the babies. And in some cases, it's true, actually. So, but in India, they talk about the cows. The Muslims are coming after the cows. So that's how you get the Hindu masses excited about the election and going to the polls. It's all about the cow. Where's the beef? The prohibition of cow slaughter did not mean that beef, this is a quote from the article, that beef eating was not in vogue during the ancient period. The Vedas, Puranas, and Dharmashastras are abound in references to beef eating, and that beef was a much sought after food. So this is the contradiction of Hinduism. You know, it's a theology and doctrine that has evolved over time with texts that have evolved over time. So there's a lot of contradictions. The Vedic and post-Vedic yajnas were invariably accompanied by animal sacrifices, killing animals. And that we see videos of that in 4K today, unfortunately. In Mahabharata, there are references to the Pandavas partaking meat during their exile. In Ramayana, there are instances of Sita offering meat to the guests. The Yajnavalkya statement is a telling example of the addiction to beef. I, for one, eat it, provided it is tender. So this is what their own texts are saying about eating beef. Like this is, and they're very popular texts. So this is the Hindu hypocrisy. And then this is the biggest hypocrisy. India emerges as second largest beef exporter in the world. This is from March 2024, just a few months ago. They're the second largest. The first largest is Brazil. Brazil, of course, is a Christian Catholic country. But, you know, India is in second place. The Hindu country that views cows as sacred and literally worships cows, but they're exporting millions of cows to the rest of the world. So this is the Hindu hypocrisy. It's quite unbelievable how they could criticize Muslims for eating beef and doing sacrifice. So let's look at some super chats and comments before we move on, because I'm interested to see what you guys think about this hypocrisy, and maybe there are Hindus in the chat. You know, I've challenged Hindus to debate. After I debated that one Hindu a couple of months ago, I've been waiting for Hindus. I've been openly challenging by name different Hindus, Hindu intellectuals, you know, you have to use that term loosely, to come and debate me, and fair, moderated debate. But they refuse. They absolutely will not accept the challenge. So I have to kind of lower my standards. The thing is that if you debate a YouTuber, like a Hindu YouTuber, even if he has like thousands of subscribers, after you demolish him, then all the Hindus say, oh, he was a nobody. Why can't you debate a real Hindu scholar? Well, I want to debate a real Hindu scholar, but no, none of them will actually show up. None of them will accept the debate challenge. So it's being stuck between a rock and a hard place with these Hindus. Okay, let's look at your super chats. Sultanov says, Jazakallah khairan for your work. Wa iyakum, appreciate it. Andros, appreciate your super chat. Jazakallah khair. What's with the kuffar and Christian in particular who rip the Quran? Just seen a live with a dude ripping the Quran and saying, Allah strike me down. Stupid people, they're just looking for attention. Like, the more people do it, the less attention grabbing it will be. So they're just... and burning the Quran, like, if you burn the Quran, that's actually one of the proper ways to dispose of a mushaf. Right? So if you have a mushaf and you don't want it anymore, or maybe it's gone very old, or something has happened to it, maybe your house flooded, or you spilled something on it accidentally and you want to dispose of the mushaf, one of the proper ways to dispose of it is to burn it. You can also bury it in clean soil, or you can burn it. You don't throw it in the trash. That's the thing. You don't throw the mushaf in the trash, but you can burn it. So when they're burning the Quran, okay, like this is a way to dispose of the Quran. Obviously, these people are scumbags, and you know, the way that you respond to people who do this is that you mock them, you make light of them, you insult them, like you use tact in order to make a fool out of them. But you know, that's my response. Parviz, Jazakallah khair for your super chat. Mirza Jazakallah Khair, he says, I can assure you most Hindus are just weak-hearted. They can't look at the process of dhabiha, but absolutely have no problem eating it and get their share during Eid al-Adha. So I guess you are located in India, so you're sharing, the the sacrifice with Hindus, and they'll still eat it, but they can't look at the process of dhabiha. Like, yeah, maybe that's the case. It's just like they get squeamish. That's like a normal thing. Most people in the world today, they don't know, like they're eating meat, but they don't know where the meat is actually coming from. They don't know, like, hey, well, you have to kill the animal in order to get that juicy hamburger that you're enjoying. Like, where do you think the meat for that hamburger came from, or the fried chicken? You have to slaughter an animal. And we've just been so detached from the domestication of animals, farming, ranching, all of that, that we don't have any awareness of how the food gets on our plate. But this is something that is encouraged. As a Muslim, you should know where your meat is coming from. You should know, if you have a halal butcher, you know him, maybe even seen him. Go and observe how is the animal being treated before slaughtered. Make sure the animal is not being abused. How is the slaughter actually taking place? Does it meet the Sharia requirements? Do you even know what are the Sharia requirements for proper slaughter of the animal? This is something that you have to know if you're eating meat. And then if you're buying meat, you need to know, like, where is it coming from, a trustworthy source. So when you're detached from that completely, from that process, then it's a shock, like, oh, an animal is being killed. Yeah. Well, how many hamburgers have you eaten in your life? How many lamb biryanis have you eaten? How much nihari have you eaten? In my case, a lot. Eaten a lot of nihari. So yeah, get acquainted with halal slaughter and do it yourself. You can do it yourself on Eid, obviously. If you haven't, make an effort to do that. And if you have children, introduce them to that as well. If something happens to the world tomorrow and I don't know, there's some kind of fallout from nuclear war, let's say, or from a massive solar flare that wipes out all electronics, all industrialization is destroyed because of some kind of catastrophic event. Then we're going to be going back to farming, to homesteading, to raising sheep, raising cows or chickens. You have to know how to slaughter. So are you prepared for that happening? You should be prepared. Or what if you get lost and you're hiking and you need to survive in the wild? Are you able to hunt and kill an animal in order to survive? This is something that Allah has made halal and made necessary. These animals were created by Allah for service of His creation, humanity. So are you taking advantage of that according to the hudud, according to the limits placed by Allah? So this is a super chat, unrelated. My mother has put portraits in my room. After I remove them, I told her about hadith, but she is not listening. Any advice? So putting portraits of people in your room, is that your personal room? Is it her room? If it's her room, you just give your mom advice, and she wants to keep the portraits up. That's her decision. So I'm assuming that your mother is Muslim. That's her decision. It's her house. She wants to put them up. But we know from the hadith that homes that have portraits up, especially of animate things, then these are houses that the angels won't go into. So this is something that is very serious. But if that's her decision. So you can't force her you don't have authority to force her to do anything. If it's in your own room and you're allowed, it's your room and she gives you permission to do what you want in your own room, then take them down. But if she says, no, this is my house and I'm going to keep the portraits up, then you have no choice. It's her house. So If she gives you permission, you get permission from her, then you can take down the portraits. Just make sure that you don't face the portraits when you're praying. But yeah, you have to respect your mother, and you can't fight her. Like, you don't have the authority to fight her on that. But if you have your own house and it's your own property, then and your mom wants you to keep portraits up, then you wouldn't obey your mom. Normally you obey your mom. You have to obey your mom, but you can't obey your mom at the expense of disobeying Allah. So you wouldn't put up the portraits in your own personal house. Hope that makes sense. This is interesting. A Bengali Hindu didn't find any proof that beef is prohibited. He became depressed. He is kind of famous Muslim revert now. Many converted by his dawah. Interesting. I'm not sure who that is, but someone I'm sure is going to put it in the chat. Saudi just ditched the US dollar. Plan accordingly, my brothers and sisters in the US. Yeah, this is big news. Ditching the dollar in the sense that there was the petrodollar. And we may have an episode dedicated to the fall of the petrodollar. Basically, it's oil that backs the value of the dollar rather than gold or rather than any other commodity. Mainly, it's oil. And now Saudi is, the agreement that they had was only to sell oil by accepting dollars, the US dollar. So when you have that kind of agreement, that means the dollar always has value because you can always buy oil with the dollar. Do you understand what that means? Like, otherwise, a dollar bill is a piece of paper. It's nothing. It's just fiat currency. The only way that paper can have value is if you can trade it for something that you need. And everyone needs energy. And today, the main source of energy is petroleum. So then if Saudi says, no, we accept any kind of money, it doesn't have to be the dollar, then suddenly the US dollar is not as valuable as it once was. Other currencies, the Russian currency, the Chinese currency, Japanese currency, these start to take on more value because you can buy oil, whether from Saudi or other Gulf countries, using those currencies. So this is very significant, and it's yet to be seen what kind of economic impact there will be. There is some idea that maybe the agreement could be, or a new agreement could take its place because the U.S. is offering Saudi different kinds of security benefits or security agreement that could offset the expiration of this petrodollar agreement, but it's yet to be seen. But if you're interested in this topic and you want an analysis, make a comment below the video, and then if there's enough comments, we will have a dedicated episode, inshallah. Okay. So let's move on. We'll continue with the super chats later. We want to now talk about come stare at my wife. So this is funny, but it's also sad. It's a funny topic when you put it like that, but it's sad in because there's a lot of confusion. That's what I'm really sad about. And there's been a request for me to cover these Muslim influencers, these couples, and some of them are really bad. Like, some of them are really the worst. Jasmine+Dawoud, I wouldn't put them in that category. Feel free to disagree. I don't think they're that bad. I think that they're just misinformed about certain things. And that's what we're going to address. But there are some who are just really, really bad. These Muslim couple influencers. And it's significant. It's important. We have to talk about it. Why? Because the influence of the West can only go so far if it's limited to just TV shows, movies, wider culture, books. Yeah, obviously there's going to be a huge impact on the world through Western culture when you have Hollywood pumping out these entertainment products and the Muslim world is consuming it. That, if you want to spread liberalism, you want to spread feminism, you want to spread modernism, that's one way that you can really accelerate the acceptance of Western norms and the discarding of Islamic values. But there are other ways that can be arguably more effective. What if you have Muslim representation? What if you have Hollywood entertainment, Hollywood style entertainment, but instead of Western actors, you have Muslim actors or Chinese actors or Russian actors or African actors or Hispanic actors? That's going to have more of an impact because then the target population sees themselves actually practicing those values or practicing that way of life, that lifestyle. That becomes very powerful. That becomes very effective in influencing the target population. And that's what is happening with these Muslim couple influencers. They are adopting feminism into their lives, and they are portraying it, displaying it to the world in these entertaining YouTube videos, on their channels, on TikTok. This becomes very powerful. So it's I would say, much more effective than, okay, you have scholars for dollars, right? You have these liberal imams, these compassionate imams or whatever, and they're teaching like a liberal message and they're saying this is Islam. That is very damaging, of course. But, one of these scholars, he might have 100 million views or 200 million views, whereas these entertainment outlets, these Muslim influencers that are just doing entertainment content. It's not religious, overtly religious per se. They're not citing Quran or Hadith. They're just doing these skits. They're doing these bits. They're acting goofy or whatever. Those get hundreds of millions, billions of views when you aggregate all of it together. So that has a greater psychological impact. You can see, oh, they're just like me. Oh, a Muslim woman just like me. Her name is Jasmine. She's wearing hijab. And she's a feminist. Like, that's not the conscious thought that you have, but you internalize it. Oh, look at this Dawoud. He has a beard. His name is Dawoud. He's praying. He's wearing Muslim-style clothing. And the interesting thing is also they do a lot of shoots or a lot of their videos are in Muslim settings. Like they'll go travel to Turkey or they'll go travel to Malaysia or a Muslim country. So you have this Muslim background, beautiful Muslim background, masajid. And you say, oh, okay, that has a big impact, like a symbolic effect on people who are watching their videos. Now, do I think that Jasmine and Dawoud are they have this kind of psyop plan? They're trying to liberalize the community? I don't actually think so. I don't think that they have this kind of ulterior motive. Allahu alam. I think that they're just misinformed by some of the things that they do, and we want to react to it. We want to see that. We want to react to their videos and point out the problem. How does this violate Islam? And then how does it also have a really clear negative impact on the Muslim community? So let me bring up the important ayat that we have to understand before we get into it. Okay, so Surah An-Nur, ayah 31, this is very important. It's the ayah about hijab. And tell the believing women to reduce some of their vision and guard their private parts and not expose their adornment, their beauty. So lower the gaze and don't expose your beauty except that which is necessarily appearing thereof, and to wrap a portion of their headscarves over their chests and not expose their adornment, meaning their beauty, except to their husbands, their fathers, their husbands' fathers, their sons, their husbands' sons, their brothers' sons, their sisters' sons, their women, that which their right hands possess, meaning their slaves, or those male attendants having no physical desire, or children who are not yet aware of the private aspects of women, and let them not stamp their feet to make known what they conceal of their adornment, and turn to Allah in repentance, all of you, O believers, that you might succeed. So this is the main ayah, and there are others that is prescribing hijab. The responsibility is on women not to expose their beauty. Don't expose your... So the beauty of women is vast. You know, the beauty of women, I've mentioned this before. Women are physically very beautiful to men, but it's not just their hair. It's not just their bodies, their face. The face is arguably the most important part of a woman's beauty. So this is why in all the schools of thought, the niqab, or covering the face, is prescribed. And this is the idea of the headscarf, the khimar, is brought down to drape over the face and the chest. And this is what the wives of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahabiyat, they would cover their faces as described in many hadith. And this is practiced by Muslims for the centuries. Now, there is this issue of, well, if you're in certain countries in certain conditions, can you expose the face? In public, do women have to wear the niqab? So let's put that conversation to the side. I believe that most scholars have said that the face should also be covered, but there can be exceptions. There can be ikhtilaf. So let's put that ikhtilaf on the side. It's ikhtilaf based on modern conditions, modern safety, or what have you. Let's put that ikhtilaf, or that debate, to the side and say that, okay, even assuming that there is this exception, and Muslim women in the West, they can, go out with their faces uncovered. Let's just assume that is acceptable. Does that mean that you should put your face online and expose yourself, in videos, your face, the most beautiful part of you as a woman? And the answer is no. How can that be the case? Because there's a big difference between exposing yourself in public versus exposing yourself on camera. When you expose yourself on camera, on a video, on YouTube, people can watch the video. Strange men are going to watch the video. They can pause the video. If you have a phone, right, you're holding the phone, and you're just sitting there with the phone here in front of you, then the person's face is filling the screen. It's like you're face to face with this strange woman. And so that's something that is contrary to haya. It's contrary to modesty. And that's very different than being, showing your face in public. If you're walking down the street as a Muslim woman, there's not going to be a strange man who comes up to you and gets in your face to look at you like that, right? There's going to be, there's personal space, there's personal distance, unless you live in a very crowded place. If you live in a crowded place, then yes, definitely you should be wearing niqab. And some of these Muslim areas, like I visited the UK. I visited the UK last year in October, and I was like, man, there is so much fitna in the UK. It's like way more fitna in the UK than in the US. And then the Muslims there found that straight. Like, why? Like, what do you mean more fitna? Like, in fact, the Muslims in the UK are more modest. The women in the UK are more modest. There's women who are wearing more niqab. They're more modestly dressed than in the US. The US is a zoo. And I tell them, no. In the US, you don't really see many Muslims out in public. Like when you're going to the grocery store or you're going, down the street or wherever, there are fewer Muslims and things aren't just as crowded. Like there is a lot of space. Now I get it. There are some parts of the US that are more crowded. Like if you're walking in New York City, there's going to be a lot of fitna. But in most of the major cities of the US, it's more spread out. You're not like in such close proximity with the opposite sex in public. But you go to the UK and all the cities, London, Birmingham, Manchester, it's all crowded and you have all these Muslim women that are walking past you constantly. That's like a fitna factory compared to the US because it's very close proximity. So that's something to keep in mind, that just because, like, let's say, like you're taking the opinion that in the West, like, given certain circumstances, the face of can be exposed. That's still a very different situation than online, putting your video online when men can just be, staring at your picture. It's something that would never happen in a public setting if you were out in public walking or going to the park or going to the grocery store or whatever. So that's something that is a big distinction that I think Muslims need to be aware of. And it's a subtle point, but not everyone gets it. But it's just the nature of technology, like the video, the photograph, like posting your pictures, especially during Eid time. I don't know why people think that, oh, it's Eid, we're going to post our wives. We're going to post pictures of our wives. We're going to post pictures of our daughters, like your teenage daughter. You really want men online to be looking at your teenage daughter? And there's a whole question of AI. Now AI can take a picture of the face and create lewd images or even pornography based on just the face. So that's another reason why you want to avoid posting your picture as a woman, especially on social media, online, whether through photos or videos. Like, this is just a no-brainer in Islam. And what I like especially about this verse, subhanAllah, and let them not stamp their feet to make known what they conceal. So Allah is acknowledging that there is like this urge that women have to, even if they're covered, they still want to do things, like they still have the urge to do things to attract attention, to still show themselves, because women biologically crave attention. In the same way that men crave to look at the female form, women have the urge to draw the attention and the gaze of men. So if they cover it themselves, then maybe they'll take the second step. Okay, let me stamp my feet so my body will vibrate or jiggle, and that will, that might attract the attention of men, or that might be enticing to some men. And some men find jiggly women very enticing, interestingly. So you have to appreciate that Allah, this is, you can tell that this is the verse from the creator of human beings, because Allah is not only saying, conceal your beauty, do not expose your beauty, lower your gaze, but even the second step, what people would do, in order to, okay, I'm abiding by the letter of the law. The letter of the law is to cover yourself, but they're not abiding by the spirit of the law because they're still doing things to attract attention to themselves. And that's what we see with some of these influencers or some of these sheikhas. It's just shocking, and we're going to cover it in future episodes. Like, they're a sheikha, they call themselves that, but you're going on Instagram Live like caked in makeup. Like, how are you a sheikha? Like, did you miss this verse of the Quran? Like, did you miss the chapter in books of fiqh on modesty and hijab? And because you are, even if you are concealed, but you're still doing something that is attracting attention, and your makeup is beautifying, right? You're beautifying yourself. This completely contradicts what the ayah is telling you, what Allah is telling you. So this is just a lack of understanding, and I don't blame the average Muslim. I don't blame them. I blame some of these simp imams, these compassionate imams who won't teach the proper thing about hijab. That's the problem. And there are examples of some of these institutions, Islamic institutions, that will advertise their courses and their seminars with beautiful women. There's even an example of advertising a course with a woman, like advertising a course on hijab with a woman, for the course poster. So here, look. This is Al-Maghrib Institute. So this is a little bit blurry. Maybe I could have made it more blurry. But what the Quran really says about hijab. So, Al-Maghrib Online. You're advertising your course on hijab with like an attractive, made-up sister. That's how you want people to take your course on hijab. Or what is the most crucial step when intending to pursue Islamic knowledge? And then you have like a picture, I won't expand it. You have a picture of a hijabi, looking nice. Like, you're contradicting the entire spirit of hijab. So this is modesty. We know the importance of modesty, but I just want to remind everyone. You also have this ayah of the Quran from Surah Al-Ahzab. O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to bring down over themselves part of their outer garments that is more suitable, and that they will be known and not be abused, and Allah is ever forgiving and merciful. So why I emphasize this ayah is because Allah is telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the previous ayah. Also, it's tell the believing women, which is significant. Tell the believing women, and this is also tell your wives and daughters. Tell the believing women, tell your wives and daughters. So this, why didn't Allah just say directly, "O believing women, do this"? "O believing women, O wives of the Prophet, O wives and daughters of the Prophet, do this"? Why didn't Allah say it directly? Allah says it in other places of the Quran. Allah references or will speak directly to women. But here, Allah is saying, O Prophet, or tell the believing women. Why? This is establishing that men are guardians over women. Men have a responsibility to teach their wives, their daughters, their female family members, and to do it in a gentle way, a merciful way. Tell them and teach them how to be modest. You are responsible for this as a man. And I mention this because it's going to be significant when we look at Jasmine+Dawoud's videos. He, as the man or the husband within that relationship, has more of a responsibility to help his wife abide by modesty standards. And this is the role that no one can take away from the husband. As a husband, you have a responsibility. You have a duty to be a guardian, to be a proper guardian over your wives and your daughters and your sons and your whole family. And this is what the Quran is telling you very directly. Tell them. قُلْ لِأَزْوَاجِكَ وَبَنَاتِكَ. Very clear. And we see this also emphasized in hadith. The famous hadith where the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, each of you is a shepherd and each of you is responsible for his flock. كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. Every one of you is a shepherd and everyone is responsible for his flock. So the Amir is the shepherd over his people and he is responsible for them. A man is the shepherd in charge of the inhabitants of his household, the members of his family, and he is responsible for his flock. A woman is the shepherdess in charge of her husband's house and the children, and she is responsible for them. And even a slave is a shepherd in charge of his master's property, and he's responsible for it. So each of you is a shepherd and each of you is responsible. And all of us will be asked of our flock. That's what being responsible means. It means you will be held to task. Did you teach them? Did you take care of them? Did you provide for them? Did you do your due diligence? Did you do your responsibility? This is a critical hadith as well that every man needs to understand, especially if you're going to be married, especially if you're going to have children. You're going to be responsible for that. So this is a very important hadith. It comes under the topic of men who do not have this type of take on this responsibility. So the Messenger of Allah said, there are three of whom Allah will not look on the day of resurrection: the one who disobeys his parents, the woman who imitates men in her outward appearance, and the cuckold, the dayuth. And then there are three who will not enter paradise: the one who disobeys his parents, the drunkard, and the one who reminds people of what he has given them. So this is very important. The dayuth. So who is the dayuth? What is the dayuth? In other narrations, it mentions his wife does shameful things with other men, and he doesn't prevent her. He doesn't stop her from doing those shameful things. This is a dayuth. He doesn't have a ghira. He doesn't have this concept of a ghira. protective jealousy over his wife. This is another critical concept. So this is significant. Do you want to be able to go to Jannah? If Allah is not going to look at you, this is bad news on the day of resurrection. Allah is not going to even look at you on the day of resurrection if you're a dayuth. So may Allah protect us from that. And what is a dayuth? A man who is not protecting his wives or his daughters, his female family members from things that are inappropriate, immodesty or inappropriate relationships with the opposite sex. Do not be a dayuth. Now, it's important also to say that it's not good to go around and just call people dayuth willy-nilly, because it's a very serious thing. Like you're saying that, Allah is not going to look at you on the day of resurrection. Instead, say, you can ask a rhetorical question. If someone is displaying their wives online, you can ask, like, are you a dayuth? Like, have you not seen this hadith? Do you not fear Allah? Do you not want to please Allah? These are the questions you can ask, but don't label someone as a dayuth. I guess, if a scholar has labeled someone with such a label as a fasiq or a dayuth, that can be done by a scholar, but be careful not to just use that kind of label willy-nilly with whoever. Another important hadith about ghayra, about protective jealousy. So this is Sa'd ibn Ubadah. He said, if I were to see a man with my wife, I would have struck him with the sword and not with the flat side of it. Okay, so this is the ghayra, this protective jealousy. And when Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard that, he said, are you surprised at Sa'd's jealousy? By Allah, I am more jealous of my honor than he is, and Allah is more jealous than I. Because of his jealousy, Allah has prohibited abomination, both open and secret, and no person is more jealous of his honor than Allah. No person is more fond of accepting an excuse than Allah, on account of which he has sent messengers, announcers of glad tidings, and warners, and no one is more fond of praise than Allah, on account of which Allah has promised paradise. So this is in Sahih Muslim. So this is ghayra. Very important for Muslim men to have ghayra over their wives. Protect them. Do not display them. Do not put their photos online. Do you want random men to be staring at your wives? Who's preventing your wife from being seen by someone who just pulls up her picture and just stares at it and looks at it? How does that make you feel? If you have no feeling by a man just taking up his phone and really, getting in there, really expanding the picture and looking like this, is that what you want? Imagine that. And if you feel nothing as a man, then you have no ghira, you have no protective jealousy, and you are getting, that's a characteristic of being a dayuth, this diatha. You're at risk. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. And another important hadith, there's a kind of, from the Prophet ﷺ, there's a kind of protective jealousy that Allah loves and a kind that Allah hates. As for that which Allah loves, it's protective jealousy when there are grounds for suspicion. And as for that which He hates, is protective jealousy when there are no grounds for suspicion. And this is graded Sahih. It's found in Sunan of Ibn Majah. But this is very significant because some men, they go overboard. Their wives are not doing anything. Their wives aren't going anywhere. They're not even anywhere near men, but they just have this kind of ghira, they're just overbearing. And so Allah doesn't like this kind of ghira. This is not good. Ghira, when there is suspicion, suspicion doesn't mean you're suspecting that she's actually involved in zina or your wife is actually cheating on you. That's not, suspicion can be less than that. She's just in an area where there are the opposite sex, men are around. And you have ghira, so you shield her or you cover her or you be a good wali, basically, a good guardian. That's the kind of ghira that Allah loves. But if there's no grounds for suspicion, she's not doing anything. She's not. You can't spy on your wife, for example. If you're a woman, you can't spy on your husband. But if there's no grounds, then this is not the kind of ghira that Allah loves. In fact, it's the kind that Allah hates, according to this hadith, which is a sahih hadith as well. Oh, here's an interesting hadith, or this is a narration about Omar. Omar was a man of protective jealousy, and he was known to have like this ghira, Omar, radiallahu anhu. And when he went out to pray, his wife, Atiqa, would follow him, although he did not like her going out, but he did not like to stop her. He used to narrate that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if your womenfolk ask you for permission to pray in the masjid, do not prevent them. So this is well known, like Atiqa was one of the very sought after sahabiyat, and was the wife to many of the great sahaba, including Omar radiallahu anhu. Basically, her husbands died, and then she would remarry. So this happened multiple times. But one thing that she made as a condition to marry her is that not being prevented from going to the masjid. So she would go to the masjid, but her going to the masjid is not like the way that, unfortunately, many Muslim women today go to the masjid, where they put on their brightest colors and their brightest makeup and douse themselves in perfume. That's not how she was going to the masjid. She was going to the masjid, completely covered from head to toe, and going for the Fajr prayer or for the Isha prayer, where there's no light, it's dark, there's no electricity to light her up in the masjid, no one can recognize her, no one can see her. That's how she was going to the masjid. And Omar, radiallahu anhu, would allow that, even though he's very jealous. So this tells you the kind of jealousy that Omar had, even though his wife is, extremely pious, extremely modest, but still he's cautious. He's like concerned for her. And he would not stop her from going out. So you can have protective jealousy, you can have ghira, and that doesn't mean that you just lock your wife in the house and you don't permit her to go and do permissible things, like you sometimes need to leave the house. This is another issue that we'll talk about. We'll have a dedicated episode to the question of women leaving the home, because there's a lecture by one of these feminist sheikhas, and I want to react to that feminist sheikha because she completely distorts the ayah of the Quran, and she's just preaching this feminist nonsense. And I want to react to that, and then we'll get into more details about leaving the house. But just from this hadith alone, women can leave the house for as long as they have permission from their husbands. That's another thing that you learn from this hadith, that he's the one who is in charge. He gives her permission, but he doesn't stop her. So this is a beautiful hadith. You learn so much wisdom from this, from the life of Omar and one of his wives. Okay. We already talked about this ayah as well. Okay, so now let's get to the reaction, the actual videos. Let me get my headphone in. All right, before we go, super chats that are related to the topic. I don't want to see I won't address super chats right now that are not related to the topic. So let me just see, maybe someone wants clarification on something. Okay. Yeah, if you have a super chat related to the topic, put it in now, and I can address it. If not, we'll just move on. Okay, so let's look at Yasmin or Jasmine and Dawoud. All right, so there's going to be some themes that you'll immediately notice, and I'll comment on them. But the main theme is a role reversal. Men are now women, and women are now men. This is at the core of feminism, and it's being pushed by these Muslim influencers. Okay, so a lot of their shorts have a lot of music, so I've silenced the music. But, so if you're not hearing anything, that's why. But you'll hopefully still be hearing my voice. But look, right out of the box. So this is a violation of everything that we talked about, like displaying the beauty of your wife. Okay, so what does it say? Let's talk about my wife's glow up, though. And it seems like it's kind of tongue in cheek, but then when you actually watch the rest of it, it's not tongue in cheek. Like he's wearing these glasses and kind of smiling. Like, who does that? Like, oh, let's talk about my wife. Like, men don't do that. Men don't go to other men and say, "Oh, let's talk about how amazing my wife is." Oh, she did this and that. Like, that's not how men communicate. Wives do that. Wives will say, "Oh, my husband did the sweetest thing, and oh, my husband, he for my, for when I was feeling ill, he brought some food for me, and when I was sick, he took care of me." Like, they'll talk to each other like that. Women do, but it's kind of a feminine thing for a man to talk, and her glow up. So I had to look up what glow up means, but means like her evolution, like how she became beautiful or something. I don't know. So you're displaying that. This is not good. This is not ghira. So that it's like just a slideshow of his wife. Like glamour shots. Like, these are glamour shots, like professional pictures. So immediately violating tabarruj, like displaying of beauty. Okay, here's another example. 3 easy poses for couples. So like, you're teaching people how to pose by using your wife. Like, people, this is how you can pose for the camera and post you and your wife on social media. See, you can see the background is like a masjid. I don't know which, I guess this is in the Gulf. Like, see, Muslim couple, Muslim background in front of a masjid, wearing Muslim clothes. And this is like the new normal. Where, we're just a glamour couple taking glamour shots. These are the shots that you can take so that you can post on Instagram and make TikTok and etc. Another 3 easy couple poses. I don't know why people need instructions on how to pose, by the way. If you want to take a picture, yeah, just stand in front of the camera. Like, now it's become an art. Like, oh, how to pose. But posing is what? It's displaying your beauty. So you're teaching Muslim women how to display their beauty for public consumption. So this is, again, I don't think that, I think they're just misinformed. I don't think this is a psyop. There are other Muslim influencer couples that I do think are like a psyop. Like, I think that they're getting funded and they're trying to push like a very specific governmental message, like a liberalization message. I don't necessarily get that vibe from Jasmine+Dawoud, but nonetheless, different types of couples on a double date. So they're on a date, 2 couples. One guy's clearly a simp. The other guy doesn't care. Sorry, I rewound it. Yeah. One guy's a simp. The other guy's also a simp. They're both simps. Because why are you taking your wife on a date with another man? Like, this is another problem. And when I talk to Muslims outside of the US, they can't understand, like, what? Like, Muslims in the US are doing this? Like, yeah, this is unfortunately spreading. It's normal. Like, you see religious Muslims, the man has a beard, he wears a thobe, the wife wears hijab, maybe even jilbab, but they have double dates. Like, you're going with another couple out to a restaurant, or you go to their house and it's a mixed environment. The men and the women, for like a dinner party, they're all sitting together in one big circle. This is why has this become the norm? Like, this is ikhtilat. This is mixing. And you're talking. So when your wife is talking and it's a social environment, there's joking, there's laughing. You want men to see your wife or vice versa. And again, like, unfortunately, it's when something becomes a cultural norm, you don't question it. It requires like going back to the Quran, going back to the Sunnah, getting good counsel from a imam or a scholar who speaks on the mimbar at the masjid. But if none of the religious leadership or the scholars or imams are preaching this on the mimbar, then how much can you really blame some of these Muslims? Some of them are just ignorant. Especially like the most sympathy that I have is for this exact generation. Like, I think that they're like, in their late 20s or mid 20s maybe. They really have had nothing. Like, for someone who is older, like in their 40s or late 30s, even mid to late 30s, you had some like proper religious instruction that existed prior to 9/11, especially. There were imams and scholars that would regularly teach the right thing. Then after 9/11 happened, everything became watered down, like to the nth degree. And in some communities, it's actually prohibited for the khatib or the imam to mention hijab because, oh, that's shaming. Don't mention hijab. That's actually the policy in ISGH. Like, I'm from Houston. And in Houston, there is this umbrella organization called Islamic Society of Greater Houston that controls a lot of masajid. And they have a policy, no khutbahs on hijab. Can you believe that? So imagine if you're growing up and you're, becoming a teenager since 2001, you might not have ever heard a khutbah on hijab. You might never have heard the imam talk about it. Just because of literal masjid policies. So this is why I have a little bit more understanding and patience with this generation. Now, will they take advice? Can they learn? Can they come and see that, okay, what we're doing is incorrect? I hope so. Like, may Allah guide them and may Allah guide us. But this is a confusing situation. And especially on social media, it becomes a challenge. So I do have patience and I do have kind of understanding for the younger generations that they're struggling with this issue, especially in the social media context. We just want to slowly move things back into the right direction. We want to move things back into the right direction and do what we can in order to achieve that, inshallah. Double dates need to end. Muslims don't go on double dates. Go on a date with your wife, a nice romantic date to a good place, get good food, enjoy each other's company. Highly encourage that. Double date, you don't need another man staring at your wife. Like, then it becomes double the romance. You're trying to romance your wife and he's trying to romance your wife. Maybe not consciously, but that's how the body reacts. Like, that's why ikhtilat is prohibited, because it's fitna. Okay, he might not even be conscious of it. Okay, people are not in control of some of these biological processes. Our physiological processes are sometimes out of our hands. What if suddenly he gets attracted to your wife? Or what if she suddenly gets attracted to him? There's actual examples of women who will see like a part of a man's body and suddenly they're fixated. Like, oh, I saw his biceps, or I saw his forearms, or I saw his whatever, and oh, I'm just obsessed now. Like, that's possible. So when you put yourself in that kind of social situation, you're really risking a lot, and that's why it's haram. This is prohibited mixing, a double date. Okay, this was weird. Being my wife for a day. So he's wearing hijab. Or he's wearing a veil, I should say. He's covering the top of his head with a veil, pretending to be his wife. So, washing the dishes, fluffing the pillow. Don't use the washroom, I just cleaned it. Worrying about his hijab. Wasting time, putting on makeup. So,
I'm a conspiracy.
all right. So, this is acting like a woman, and it's completely wrong. It's very bad message. It's this going along with this pattern of feminizing, emasculating men, and masculinizing women. Women are becoming these brutes, these testosterone filled brutes. And actually, the research shows that women's testosterone has been increasing over the past decades, whereas men's testosterone has plummeted. Men's testosterone has plummeted, whereas now the average teenager has the same amount of testosterone as his grandfather. That's how much testosterone has plummeted. And this is what contributes to it. Like, this kind of role reversal has an effect on testosterone levels. So women who act more manly and do typically manly roles or masculine roles, their testosterone increases when they're involved in competitions, for example, when they're involved in managerial positions. Their testosterone, there's a biological reaction that their testosterone increases. Whereas men, their testosterone drops when they do typically feminine roles, like taking care of children, like child caring responsibilities. Your testosterone is going to plummet as a man. Like, that's just the biological reality. And then you're kind of, you're going to start wearing hijab. You're going to start acting like your wife. And this reminded me of a very interesting clip from Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is a Muslim. He's a comedian. He obviously does a lot of haram things. But he was being interviewed by Oprah, and he was talking about his acting career, and he was noting one very significant event within his acting career. Take a listen.
Conspiracy theorist to a degree. Like, when I connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career. This happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin. So I walk in the trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. So the writer comes in. We got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a prostitute. And he put this dress on. And, what? The prostitute? Nah, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That should have been in the discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable with it? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it. Because I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. Oh, come on, Dave. Listen, we got it all set up. We're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money. No, the pressure comes in. He said, I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Oh, gosh, this guy's so difficult. And then I started thinking about all the comics that I've seen. Man, strong brothers, why they putting us in these dresses? The minute it was clear, I was adamant. I'm not wearing a dress. I'm not wearing the dress. All right, fine. Think of something else. You gotta take a stand.
So Dave Chappelle and others have said that, well, this seems to be a psyop. Take strong black men and put them in these movies and make them wear dresses, emasculate them. And this can have a psychological effect on the black population. So this is, conspiracy that Dave Chappelle is mentioning, and there could be a lot to that. The same thing can happen with Muslim men. Like, let's emasculate the Muslim population by putting their men, like take a bearded man, like a big bearded Muslim man, put him in women's clothes and parade him around. And that can have a big psychological impact on destroying masculinity. So again, I don't think that Jasmine and Dawoud are a psyop or are in on the Illuminati or the conspiracy to do this. But that's the thing, like, you play into it inadvertently. And when you look at the kind of media that is shared through Hollywood, you have so many men who are emasculated or are treated like they're oafs. They're treated like they're idiots. They're weak. They're pathetic. And it's the strong Muslim or the strong woman who has to come in and save the day. The strong woman who is wiser, more intelligent. She can take charge. She has all of these good qualities. She's the protagonist. And the man, he's just an oaf. He's an idiot. How many fathers do you see portrayed in these movies or these shows who are like Homer Simpson? They're just oafish. They can't really do much. This is a recurring pattern. It's to emasculate. It's to take men, basically to destroy the patriarchy. And that's how you destroy patriarchy in actual society. You destroy it on the screen. And now, inadvertently, Muslims will be playing into that because that's a source of humor. Oh, it was funny when we saw it in that TV show when the man dressed as a woman or pretended to be the woman. Now Muslims are following the non-Muslims down the same lizard hole.
Babe, I'm not in the mood. Please get.
So when it's that time of month for her, and again, he's in bed, he's pretending it's that time of the month for him with hijab.
Away from me. Babe, where you going? Babe, where you going? Babe, I was just playing. You're gonna leave me? You don't want me?
No, that's a good representation. Like the deep voice, where are you going? Like a lot of these Muslim women have become like men, like gruff, aggressive, this kind of manly tone, like bossing him around. Like this is role reversal, destroying gender roles. Like, okay, you have the masculine provider, the husband, the father, and then you have the agreeable, soft, gentle, kind mother, caretaker. And these are very clear roles defined in Islam, defined in every patriarchal society, defined in the Quran itself. This is what our religion teaches. And then you subvert it. You say, no, it's the kind, gentle, very agreeable. He just agrees to everything. That's the man. And the caretaker, the provider, the strong support, that's the woman, that's the wife. Like this is subversion of patriarchy and therefore subversion of Islam.
The key to a happy marriage, especially for you ladies,
the key to a happy marriage, especially for you ladies,
is listen to your husband, respect him, allow him to be the man he can be. Shut up! Allow him to talk.
All right, so hitting him in the face. Again, telling him to shut up. So this is one clip, but they have lots of clips like this where she's hitting him. Okay. Implied slap with a shoe, like she smacked him in the face with a shoe, like that's implied. Like this is, again, you can imagine what if the roles were reversed. What if, they're joking about him smacking her in the face or slapping her or telling her to shut up, like yelling like that, like trying to make comedy out of that. Like you can make comedy out of that, but would that be acceptable? What is that actually normalizing?
Are you single?
Yeah.
This poor guy is getting smacked around, knocked around, and he's like a big guy. He's much bigger than she is. But this is what we should be entertained by. When you're married to a morning person, so the poor guy wants to wake up nice and early and he gets smacked in the head. Yeah, I know, it's like a joke. It's like for comedic effect. But everything, even jokes, have an underlying message. They convey an underlying lifestyle, an underlying way of being. And the underlying way of being or lifestyle that's being portrayed through these jokes is one where the man is subservient and underneath his wife. And the wife is the leader. She is the authority and she dominates him. I'm sorry for being so mean to you last night. And she's apologizing. It's okay. Just don't be so dramatic next time. Oh, he made a mistake. So his hand is literally shaking from fear. She becomes a monster. And he has to run away before she does something to him. So look, that's the think of a roided up football player or wrestler or MMA fighter, like roided up, like ready to go, ready to rage, and that's like your wife. Imagine being married to that. unfortunately, many men are. Like, this is a joke on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, but there are many men, Muslim men, who are living this kind of reality. If you look at the domestic violence statistics, there is parity, meaning there's 50-50 rates where men are the violent party against women, and 50% where it's women who are the violent party against men. There's this incorrect stereotype that, oh, domestic violence, that's mostly a problem for men. Men are the ones who are the wife beaters, predominantly. But it's actually not the case. It's even between men and women. 50% of the time, it's the woman, the wife, or the girlfriend who's beating her boyfriend or a husband. And sad to say, there are many examples that I even know personally where the wife has been beating her husband and attacking him, like very violent attacks, sometimes even taking weapons like a knife. And the thing is that a man can't retaliate. A man can barely even protect himself. Why? Because the domestic violence laws are set up so that if he does anything against her, he'll be put in prison. The police will just arrest him. And women have taken advantage of this. You have examples of women who will slap themselves and accuse the husband, oh, he hit me, he slapped me. And the police will arrest him. Like they are authorized to arrest the husband in domestic disputes. And a lot of the law is based on size. So if both parties say that, or both parties claim that they were victims of violence, the police will go with what is more plausible. And it's more plausible that the bigger, stronger guy is the aggressor against the weaker, smaller woman. And that's how the court cases operate as well, all else being equal. So men are at a big disadvantage, and women today are taking advantage of that by literally beating their husbands, okay? Getting mad at their husbands and raising their hands against them and striking them. And again, like Jasmine and Dawoud, they're just portraying this as a joke, but there's a very sad underlying reality here. The violence in itself is sad. Like, even if you're a liberal person, you will disagree that men should be subject to domestic violence. But as a Muslim, like, there's an extra level of tragedy involved because you're also reversing or subverting the natural order, the God-given order of men being the heads of households, men being the authorities. How can you be an authority if your wife is beating you up? Or your children, maybe your children beat you up. Like, that's how weak you are, and that's how they feel. Like, they feel lionized against you, and they're willing to slap you or beat you or do whatever. So this is the destruction. Like, families cannot survive this kind of subversion of patriarchy. So here's another clip. My parents saying that no one will want to marry because of my attitude. So her parents, I don't know if that's a joke, but even her parents are telling her that maybe she's a little too aggressive. Maybe she's a little bit too mannish. I don't know. So then here comes this poor guy. Ready for the challenge. Oh, she knocks him to the floor and flexes her muscles. Yeah, so. Ramadan as a kid. Screaming at him, hitting him with the shoe. He cowers in fear. So yeah, this is, how many videos of this poor guy getting beat can we watch, right? So then this is another interesting video that I'll comment on, but like, when it's your wedding night. Yeah, this is the wedding night. The poor guy has spent a lot of money probably to get this wedding organized. It went off without a hitch, paid for the food, paid for the flowers, paid for everything that's needed to transport parents. He paid a mahar probably. Now you have Muslim women asking for 50K, 100K mahar. You have to basically go bankrupt in order to get married. He's paid all of that, jumped through only Allah knows how many hoops. And now it's the wedding night, okay? Now's the payoff.
Oh.
this is probably a good time for me to tell you you're just a friend.
No, you're just a friend. Okay, so again, it's a joke. And, you know, the wedding night, if you're a Muslim youth, young man, you want to get married, of course, so the wedding night, you should be gentle, you should be understanding. It's a scary thing especially for women. Your wife is going to be nervous, she's going to be worried. Don't, you know, pressure her or put her in a situation where she's going to be, you know, sad or depressed because you're too aggressive. Be understanding and gentle. That's my message for you. So don't get it twisted. But, you know, women also, as a wife, be accommodating, you know, be agreeable, think about what your husband is willing to do for you, what he has already done for you. Like that's what successful marriage is all about. Understanding and willingness to sacrifice. You know, my grandmother actually, Allah have mercy on her, that was one of her statements, or her statements is that marriage is all about gozasht. Gozasht kardan is like meaning just overlooking, being forbearant. You know, always overlook the faults. Be forbearant. Be tolerant. Be willing to sacrifice. Don't always think about your rights. Don't always think about what you're owed. Think about the other party as well. That's successful marriage. But think about this. She, in this video, like she didn't want to do her duty basically as a wife. Fine. But let's continue watching. Like, how does she act when he doesn't do what she wants him to do? When she has expectations that he doesn't meet, what is her reaction? His reaction on the wedding night was like, oh, kind of sucks, but it is what it is. That's fine. But it would be less egregious if her reaction wasn't, as I'll show you.
Anna.
Who takes out the garbage? All right, so she does all the chores. All he does is take out the garbage. He's an oaf. He's useless. She does so much, and like she has to like dance. You know, that's how much more competent she is. He's incompetent. When my husband does the chores, it's this. When she does the chores, it's competent, it's professional. He can barely wash a mug. Fixing the bed. Whistle on that mug. Okay, so again, the same message. He's incompetent. He's an oaf. He can't do anything. She's the superwoman. She has to take care. She's also very manly, right? She's like aggressive, fast, decisive. He's like smiling with like feminine music. Who takes out the garbage? It's him. She does everything else. All right, so she just kicks him out. No, he's so useless. I do literally everything. I am cleaning, cooking, dishes. I'm fixing things. I'm doing the grocery. He does nothing. Get out. But is that really true? Like, when it comes to the responsibilities of living, who's paying the bills? Who's paying the taxes? Who's dealing with the different costs of living? Who has to deal with the landlord? Who has to deal with business problems? Who has to deal with all of these kinds of issues of life? Is she dealing with it, or is he dealing with it? And but that's not, there are no TikTok videos about that. There's no TikTok videos of a woman, oh, you're useless. Like him, imagine, kicking her out of the house. Like, what do you do? Like, you just cook some food. Okay, well, I take care of this, I take care of this, I take care of this, I take care of this. Like, you literally wouldn't have money to buy the groceries if it weren't for me. Right? And then the woman's response, unfortunately, the feminist response, oh, well, I should be working too. I should be working, and he has to do 50%. He has to do 50% of everything. We cut everything down the middle. Equality. It's a partnership. So there are many critiques of why this is a problem, why equality marriages don't work, why they, in over half of cases, end up in divorce. It's because it's not natural. It's not natural. Women have hypergamy, and everyone by now knows what hypergamy is. When I was talking about feminism 6 years ago or even 5 years ago, no one knew about hypergamy, the concept. But now everyone knows because of Andrew Tate and other red pill manosphere. Like, everyone knows what hypergamy is. Women want men who are higher status, bigger, stronger, smarter, more capable, more wealthy than they are. So when you create an equality marriage where both parties are equal, there's going to be less attraction that the woman naturally has for her husband. She won't be as attracted to him. She'll be looking for the higher status man who's higher than her husband. This is why infidelity of women is so high. This is also why the divorce rate is so high, because of the rise of feminist equality marriage. And we're going to have a whole series on this, inshallah. It's what's destroying Muslim marriages. So I won't give you too much more on that. But you see, like, he's useless. He doesn't meet expectations. Throw him out. What if he, like in that video where she says, oh, we're best friends on the wedding night. Like, oh, we're just friends. Why didn't they end that video with him throwing her out? That would actually be pretty funny. Throwing her out and it's like going... But he can't do that because he paid like 50K mahar. Paid 50K mahar, probably dropped another 50K for the wedding, for her dress. And yeah, that's... But she can throw him out, even though he's paying for the house and food and everything.
These are things that I do to show my wife how much I love her. My wife...
Okay, so anyway, we could show more of these clips, but we want to keep the episode today, inshallah, under 2 hours. But so again, I want to say that I don't want to be overly critical of Jasmine and Dawoud. I think they remind me of a lot of Muslim youth, actually, in America especially. They may be misinformed, and we should advise them. And I'm worried about them. I'm worried about like what, this is going to do, like this, putting this stuff out there. Also, like, aren't you worried about hasad? Like, aren't you worried about jealousy from others? Like, a very nice couple living a very nice life, mashallah, mashallah. And people are looking at it, some people with bad intentions, and they have this evil eye. The evil eye is a real thing. So may Allah protect them from any evil, and may Allah guide them, may Allah guide us. It is not easy to deal with this issue of ikhtilat, tabarruj, putting your wife online. Just don't do it. Think about, is this really worth it? Is it really worth it? And it's not. It's not worth it. And you can find solutions around it. You can find content that you can create with the participation of your wife. Your wife can participate without necessarily showing her on the screen or showing her face. You can do that, So, for example, with Khalid, my wife, she does appear on some videos, but her face is covered, like people can't see her face. And we decided to do that. Why? Because she's addressing like a very important issue of feminism, and there's a big need for it. And we got, advice and nasiha from scholars, some qualified scholars that, okay, that's fine because of the need. She's speaking, has certain expertise, she has certain kinds of credibility, and she can speak to other women about feminism more effectively than I can. Because some women just won't listen to me talk about the dangers of feminism. Fine. I don't take any personal offense to that. But the point is that there are solutions, there are workarounds, and we as a community can collectively help each other to find those solutions. So I wanted to point out some examples of videos that I thought were really good. They're really funny, they're really clever, and they don't have anything that violates, or they don't have this tabarruj. They're not displaying the wife. They're not displaying Yasmin. So here's an example that it can be done. Like, their best videos basically are the ones where she's not in them, but she's clearly involved. She's like behind the camera. So here's, what was the title of it? Sorry.
These are things
These are things I do to show my wife how much I love her.
that I do to show my wife how much I love her. My wife loves when I do the dishes, so I always make sure I do them for her. My wife doesn't like when I come into bed with dirty socks on, so I make sure I take them off. My wife also appreciates when I take out the garbage, so I make sure I do that for her. My wife hates when I leave beard hair trimmings all over the sink, so I make sure I clean it.
Yeah, so I find that funny because I do the same thing. I help around the house. So, you know, that's clever. It subverts your expectation. It's fun. That's what makes it funny, and it's relatable. But you don't have to have your wife in front of the camera and like a close up of her glow up in order to be funny, in order to really have like to show like you want to do something that's entertaining and nice, and you're promoting Muslim marriage, which is always good. But you don't have to get into the haram elements. That's the whole point. And it's successful. Like, this is a successful video. Here's another example. Before you meet her dad for the first time, you know, you're a nice, confident.
Have you ever had a dream
But then when you actually meet her dad,
that you could.
so this is her dad, wondering who's this little kid?
You could.
Yeah, so that's a good, you know, that's a funny video. It didn't involve showing his wife. Shows a lot of respect for the dad, you know. That's actually promoting patriarchy in a way. So that's the kind of good content that we want to see from Dawoud and Jasmine, you know, Jasmine behind the camera. This is the kind of content that you should create. So then here's an interesting video. So this is a prank. She pranked Dawoud, pretended to film an ad for a $500 makeup brush in front of my husband. So this is really interesting.
Hi guys, I just wanted to share a quick package. I'm doing a little unboxing with you guys. I got this makeup brush in the mail and I ordered this about 2 weeks ago and I finally got it. It's a little bit on the expensive side. It's a little under $500
He's in the background cuddling a cat.
USD, but it is amazing because it's so dense but so soft, and it does an amazing job to. What?
Stop filming.
What?
You spent $500 on that.
Yeah.
What a waste of money. What is this?
Okay, it's a brush.
Brush worth $500? You crazy?
Do you know what this is made out
I don't care what it's made of. Say, Wallah, you spent $500 on this.
Dawoud, this is made out of horsehair.
Inshallah, it's made out of the best hair in the
You
world.
know-
I'll buy you a whole horse for $500, bro. Return it.
You know the.
No, I don't want to hear it. Return
You
it.
know
I
that-
don't care. Just return it. It's not worth $500. Bro, say what you didn't buy that for free. You're not
Do you know the
crazy.
hair on the back of a horse
Doesn't-
underneath its tail?
I don't care.
That's this hair.
It's not worth $500. Go return it. Done.
Yeah, so this, it seems like it is authentic, like an authentic reaction that he had. But I think that like represents a healthy marriage, like in a sense, because he says like, I don't care, return it, you just do it. Like he lays down the law, you know, that's what I like to see. And I think that's the reality probably, inshallah, that's the reality of their marriage. Like he is not, he plays a character, like he plays a kind of simp character getting beat up by his wife. Maybe that's just a character for the views, for comic value. But in reality, he's the Chad. He's saying, no, return it. I don't care. Don't talk to me. It's like just no questions. Okay. Do what you're told. So inshallah, that's how their marriage is. If so, they'll be a very happy marriage. Allah will bless them. Inshallah. And yeah, so that's Jasmine and Dawoud. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that reaction to their content. And again, I don't think that they're trying to psyop the Muslim community, but there's still an impact to these kinds of videos. There's still an impact to this kind of joking. It's joking in a way that can be very damaging because you have Muslim women who watch this. And when you watch jokes, like you let your guard down and that makes you more vulnerable this is something that is studied in psychology and media. Like if you want to influence people, sometimes it's not best to just tell them a direct message and say like, accept this proposition, accept this value. If you make them laugh and you make them feel casual and comfortable, they lower their guard and then they're more receptive to the programming or to the message. And that is very effective. Like this is what makes this kind of feminist programming very dangerous. It's done through humor. It's done through like, okay, you have this attractive couple who's presenting jokes. You watch it, and then your expectations are changed. Your understanding, your values are changed of what is a marriage supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like Jasmine+Dawoud. Their channel has hundreds of millions of views. So how many Muslims are affected by this? And this is just one couple, one Muslim couple spreading this kind of stuff online. And there are many others, and we'll review them, inshallah, in future episodes. If you have a Muslim influencer that you want me to review, leave it in the comment section. And now we will go back to Super Chats. Okay, Eid Mubarak, do you have any opinions on Islamic banking, such as guidance residential or UIF for purchasing a home, or is it a difference of opinion? Honestly, I haven't looked at what they're offering. What are their products? So I'm not sure, like, what's the status. You should ask a qualified expert in Islamic finance, someone who is an expert in fiqh, and they'll be able to better guide you. Thoughts on Senator Armstrong and his ideology? I don't know who Senator Armstrong is. Senator Armstrong. This is a character? I Googled it and I just get characters, like from video games. I thought it was a real senator. Okay, good job trolling me. Let's see. Samson, Jazakallah khair. Eid Mubarak. Hope everyone has a blessed Eid. Keep up the awesome work. Everyone spread the good and stay united. Appreciate your super chat. The Bengali revert is Muhammad Al-Amin with 248,000 subs. MashaAllah. Okay, we should check him out. What do you think of Zaydis and Yemeni Ansar Allah? And do you think RII, since we don't curse companions or do mut'a, but will I get to follow that math? Okay, I don't know. Zaydis are Shia, but they're not Ithna Ashari Shia. They're not 12ers. So they're mainly in Yemen. And when it comes to Zaydis, they're very similar to Sunnis in fiqh. And they're closer to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah than the 12er Shia. So those are the Zaydis. Trill Iman, Jazakallah khair, says, will you ever consider coming on a public news channel or have an interview on Breakthrough News who are very pro-Palestine, or try a podcast with Candace Owens? Have you spoken to Sami Hamdi? Yes, I've spoken to him. Maybe one day we'll have him on the program. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to any news program, any podcast. I've done it many times in the past. So anyone who wants to invite me to that can feel free. We now have Dawah carriers saying men hijab. What's men hijab? Muhammad says, skits aren't even funny. Secondhand embarrassment. Yeah, there's some cringe. New bid'ah saying men's hijab. Yeah, I haven't heard it myself, but men do have a requirement to also dress modestly. And some men violate that. They want to attract attention by posing with, shirtless or showing their muscles. That's also a problem. You're trying to attract attention where women are going to see it. So men need to be modest as well, but it's just not the same level of fitna. When a woman exposes her beauty, that's a huge fitna. When a man shows like big muscles, the main people who will be attracted to that, like in terms of attention, are men actually. And that's kind of a meme within like fitness. Like the men, like, okay, but at a certain point, your muscles get too big, then the only people who are really interested in that are other men, not other women. Women actually don't find it attractive. But that being said, you need to try to stay modest even as a man. Brother, is it okay to eat store-bought meat in southern USA, which is more Christian, and fast food like Zaxby? I don't know what Zaxby is, or Chick-fil-A, and why, if it's allowed or not? No, it's not allowed to eat that kind of meat. Because you don't know who has slaughtered it. You don't know, like, this idea that they're Christian. Like, these major multinational meat processing companies are not Christian. They're not owned by Christians. They're like, some of them are public companies. Like, they're publicly traded companies. So there's no Christian ownership, let alone a Christian who is actually slaughtering your meat or doing anything like properly cutting it, properly doing the dhabiha. So it's not halal. That is the position that I have, and that is the correct position. There are some people who have an incorrect understanding of dhabiha, and they say, no, the U.S. is a Christian country, and the Constitution of the U.S. says you have to be Christian to be president. This is false. The Constitution does not require the president to be Christian. You can be an atheist president of the United States. And what does that have to do with the companies? Like, these are companies that are not actually Christian at all. They're not Christian. They're not Jewish. So do not buy this kind of meat. Don't go. And same with Chick-fil-A. Like, their meat source is not necessarily like a Christian farm. So, and it really annoys me, like this kind of fatwa, because the fatwa, it's that, you can just eat anyone's meat, just go to the store. When you have that kind of fatwa, then the Muslims become complacent and they start eating whatever meat that's available. Like, put the fiqh question aside. Like, there are resources online if you want to read or watch in depth a scholar actually present, like, this is why you can't just eat the meat in America or in Europe, for example, in a non-Muslim country. You can't just eat whatever meat that you find in the store or in the restaurant or whatever. Go and watch a proper scholar explain it. But put that issue aside. Like, another issue that is significant is that when you get the Muslim community used to, like, just eat whatever, then the Muslims don't develop their own institutions. We don't develop our own meat sources, our own farms, our own, food processing plants, our own butchering operations, our own businesses that are halal and meet the strict standards of Sharia. We don't do the effort because someone said, it's halal. So just go and do it. This is a big problem. When I went on that rant in a previous episode on public schools, it's the same thing. Like, the scholars said, public school is halal. Like, some of the scholars said, the public schools in the West are halal. No problem. Send your kids. Even though those schools are very damaging and they lead to a lot of kufr. So much of our youth are led to kufr because of these public schools. If some of those scholars had said it's actually haram to send your kids to public school, then the Muslims will put a lot more resources, a lot more effort into creating quality Islamic institutions. They would actually petition the government to get more funding in order to build really quality Islamic schools that teach a true Islamic curriculum. But because of this kind of suhulat pasandi, which is like seeking ease, seeking the easy road, it's halal, everything is halal, then those institutions weren't created. Now you have all these Muslim parents who are complaining there's no good educational option for my kids. My kids are really suffering in public school, or their iman is being threatened, where are the Islamic schools? This is what they're doing. Where are the Islamic schools? Well, part of the solution is the fatwa that, oh, actually, public schools are haram, right? So this is kind of the sociological role of fatwa, the sociological role that a ruling has, or a fatwa has, in shaping a Muslim community or a Muslim nation or the entire ummah, having the foresight. Another example that I always like to use is look at the amazing Islamic architecture, beautiful Islamic calligraphy, amazing Islamic art that's created. Like, just, I was in Turkey the previous month, and we saw the Suleymaniya, these beautiful masajid. We saw the Blue Mosque. We saw all of this amazing masajid architecture. Now, if the scholars of the time had said, you know, it's fine to have iconography on your masajid, like put pictures of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just imitate the Christians, right? Just imitate the Christians, and they have, you know, these ornate cathedrals and these ornate, the Sistine Chapel. You have all this art, figural art of people, of the prophets, of Jesus, of God. You have portraits of God. Okay, that's, maybe don't portray God, but you can portray the prophets, you can portray the angels, you can portray Satan. Just have all of this figural representation in these icons. That's halal. It's halal. It's fine. It's halal. It's fine. Just then there would be no motivation. There would be no motivation to actually create Islamic art, to master Islamic artistic styles. Those had to be created. Those had to be developed. But they were developed because someone said this is haram. So this is the value of the haram police, right? The haram police are building Islamic civilization. The haram police are closing off the road so that you are going to excel, that you're going to do something even better. You're going to create something even more magnificent, more beautiful. So don't, think of it as a burden. Don't think of it, okay, something has been closed off. This is making my life difficult. My life is miserable. Why can't everything be halal? No, think of the opportunity. Think of how much Islamic civilization has advanced and expanded and grown because of the haram police. The same thing is, it's very important when it comes to meat. And it's not that difficult. So many countries, look at South Africa. Their halal meat industry is so successful that pretty much the whole country or large parts of South Africa are selling halal meat, even non-Muslims. Look at the halal meat industry of New Zealand. All of New Zealand is halal meat standards because of the Muslims. The Muslims went and they had their own ranches. They had their own meat processing. They did their 100% halal standards. They set the gold standard for halal. It was, may Allah bless the scholars who oversaw that process. May Allah bless the haram police who made sure to set the boundaries. And they gave the fatwa, and that's what led to the benefit that so many millions are benefiting from halal meat. And unfortunately, we have this kind of half-baked opinion. It is what it is. It's a half-baked opinion that, oh no, you can just eat the meat of any non-Muslim because of a vague idea that this is a Christian country. It's not. It's not. This is not a Christian country. That the lawmakers in this country are not Christian. That these industries are not, they have nothing to do with religion. Even if you take the position that, okay, as long as the identity of the person is Christian, that means that the meat is Christian, or the meat is permissible. Why? This is a half-baked, I'm sorry, but time to say it like it is. Joey, Jazakallah khair, you think these videos joking or not still promote a false idea of what a Muslim marriage should be, especially given the dilution that already exists? Yeah, they give a false idea. Referring to men's awra as men's hijab, okay. They call it men's hijab to appease women. Yeah, that's true. Women have hijab, so there's perfect equality, so men have to have hijab as well. since Saudi did it, I guess like petrodollar, like the agreement with the US has expired. Are you getting ready, brother? I'm getting food, water, body armor, medicine, ammo, and guns. Also getting safe bug out zone. Yeah, it's always good to be prepared, but inshallah, it's not going to be a civilizational collapse. I don't think the US is going to become like a dystopian scenario tomorrow. Like, we'll see how it plays out economically. But yeah, the US is on its way out economically, and we have to be prepared for that. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How do we send videos for these lives? I know this one's almost over, but for next time, inshallah. Within the comments, you can put a link to videos or just describe it, like give me the title and the name. Put it, like, comment in the link, in the comment section rather, and I will hopefully see it. If enough people upvote it within YouTube, then I'll see it, inshallah. There's also a contact email that for the channel. You can send it to that as well as a link, like send the video link. Go to the channel description for MuslimSkeptic and you should see it, inshallah. Okay, well, again, I wanted to be under 2 hours, but unfortunately we're 10 minutes over 2 hours, so I can never seem to get it under time. But again, I hope that you will subscribe to the channel and subscribe to our newsletter. As I said, there are exclusive updates just for people who subscribe to the newsletter. Just go to the description box below. There's a link for the newsletter. Click on that and put your email. We will be very respectful of your email. It's not going to get sold. It's not going to be mistreated. But we'll give you exclusive updates from Haqiqatjou about Genius of Islam, other unrelated topics, and also potentially ebooks that we're writing or have been written already, and we want to share those with you. So you have to be subscribed to the newsletter in order to have access to those books. So you might as well do it now. You know, subscribe, and you'll be able to access those books when we release them in the next month or two. Okay, guys, let's see. Any other final comments? Some of you guys are funny. Okay. We're going to have another episode this week. Either we're going to go live on Thursday. That's my estimation, but just stay tuned on social media. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Telegram. The links are in the description again. And we'll announce the next episode. It'll probably be around the same time. And again, we're going to have another information-filled episode that you will definitely enjoy. I'll announce the topics in advance as well. So with that, again, I wish you Eid Mubarak. Hope you had a good one. May Allah bless you all. Jazakumullah khairan for everyone who sent a super chat. I really appreciate you, because that supports these shows. Really, subhanAllah, it helps out a lot. And we'll catch you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.